Today's new events is my last day of work at St. Mary's Hospital, and certainly anybody that's been here 36 years is confused and elated at the same time and wondering what the heck are you doing. And I mean, I'm stopping work on stuff that things I've started preparing for since 1977, you know, when I started medical school. We're going to start loading up the U-Haul and starting a new life over in Oregon, getting married in October to a lady that I kind of been fixated on. We met in 1981. She was a new grad nurse out of Prairie View A&M, and I was a new doc, an intern. And we were starting our first rotations and at the obstetrical hospital in Houston. She actually let me take her out to the movies once. But my last day of residency, I got through seeing a patient, and that was the last patient of the day in the OB clinic. Went by trying to find her because I wanted to say goodbye. I mean, I wanted to be a special goodbye to let her know what I thought of her and things, and I couldn't find her. So it's always been in the back of my head, what the heck has she been doing for 36 years? So I Googled her name, and I got her Facebook page, and I didn't know anything about Facebook. Took it to my nurse at Cottonwood. I said, do you do this Facebook baloney at all? And yeah, all the time, you know. Her and her friend in crime, who is my nurse now, Erin Corsi, got together and started working. So I sent her a card with me and the kids' picture on it. I said, I don't know if you remember me. You know, we went to the movies once, but I'm just really anxious to make sure you're okay and everything. And I'm going to be in Dallas for a high school reunion in April. I said, look, I'll come to Houston and we can have lunch. You can bring your husband, your boyfriend, you know, whoever significant to you. I just, you know, need to see you. And she called me. And we met at this Mexican food place, and you know, and then talked for another couple hours out in their car, and then talked every night ever since then. But we met in Seattle one weekend. We walked around downtown and tried to get to know each other a little better after 36 years, and we kind of met at certain places, and you know, Houston. There's a couple of times she's been up here, so she knows the prairie. You know, I decided this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, however long that is, you know. And so we are. I was born at a really early age. I was born in Dallas, Texas in 1954, and it's fun. Mom and Dad always looked at other folks' pictures. There's always pictures of their parents, you know, wedding pictures and stuff. Well, we didn't have any of those. I said, you know, Mom, you and Dad are married, right? You know, I said, yeah. Well, it was the day before he was going to be sent to boot camp in World War II, and he just walked by her office downtown Dallas. She was working as a bookkeeper at a big department store, and said, you know, if we're going to do this thing, we better go to City Hall and get it done because I got to ship out tomorrow. And they walked across the street to City Hall and got married in front of a justice of the peace, and that was all she wrote, you know. She was Juanita Smith, her maiden name, born in Terrell, Texas, which is a little town in East Texas. Dad was Ernest Woodrow Sigler. He was born in Denton County. The place that he was born wasn't incorporated yet. I have two brothers, Ernie, who was born in 1945, and Tommy, which is 13 months older than me. We grew up in an area of Dallas called Oak Cliff, which was south of the Trinity River. The Trinity River just heads right into, and just north of the Trinity River is where downtown starts. And just south of the Trinity River, this place it's called Oak Cliff. We're still in Dallas, and I mean, just historically speaking, we would catch a Beckley bus to go down Beckley Avenue to get to downtown. Well, Lee Harvey Oswald lived right on Beckley. He lived right on our bus route, about 8 blocks from where we originally grew up. I was in 4th grade when President Kennedy came to town and got shot. my brother was a senior in high school, and about 3 blocks from the high school was where he shot Officer Tippit. And my brother was saying, we didn't know what happened, but there were like 500 cop cars just racing around each side of the school to get to where Officer Tippit was down. And then he went into the Texas Theater, which is a theater we all went to the movies at every Saturday. The lady taking tickets was called the police, not because of what had happened. She didn't know what had happened. He ran in without paying his 75 cents to get into the picture show. So she called the cops, said, "That guy just ran into the picture show, and I don't know, he won't come out and pay." Said, "You need to go get him." And that's how they found him and arrested him. I graduated high school in 1972, but I played football and baseball in high school and did well academically and actually got a $500 scholarship, which that paid for, believe it or not, my first semester's tuition in college. I tried out for the football team. They didn't have any other kicker coming back, and so I had to kick. I was not very good. Our coach didn't believe in just letting the kickers go kick, and I didn't want to do that because I played center in high school, and I played a couple of freshman games as a center, but I was the scout team center during the week, so I got kind of pretty beat up during the week and wasn't at my best, and I only kicked field goals in one game. Then spring training was 20 practices of spring training, and I actually got to kick for both teams and did pretty well and never missed a kick, and so they gave me a partial scholarship for tuition and books and for the second and third year, and then he made a cut, and I was one of the ones that was cut, and so my senior year didn't play, but I did get a job, United Parcel Service, which got me to enough money to work your way through school, so I didn't have any debt coming out of college. I graduated college in August of 1976. I tried to apply for medical school, but I had no idea. I mean, you had till September 30th to apply, and I got my application in about September 28th. They don't even look at anything past July 1st. They just throw them away. So, but fortunately, I got my Sunday school teacher that was, when I was 4 years old, worked in the operating room at Baylor Hospital, one of the bigger hospitals in Dallas. So I got a job there. I kept my job at United Parcel Service, and so I worked 2 jobs and took the medical aptitude test again and applied a lot earlier, like in the spring, and got interviews from about 4 different schools. After your intern year, you can go out and work extra if you'd like, and I started working at a emergency room at called Memorial City. It was out in West Houston. Amy actually worked as a unit manager there, and that's where we met, and we had 4 dates in between residency responsibilities and things. And the first of my second year, I took a month rural rotation out in Big Piney, Wyoming. My first time out to the Intermountain West, and Dr. Close could never remember my name. He would just call me Texas, and he said, "Well, who's going to help you do this?" And he said, "Oh, Texas will help me over here." And he said, I said, "Come over here." He said, "It's my daughter. Hold her tongue." I said, "Okay, I'll hold her tongue." He said, "Do that." He said, "Now finish this incision, do that." And he said, "Well, now you got to sew it up." And I said, so we sewed it up, and he said, my daughter Glennie?" And I went, "No." He said, "You ever seen any of her movies?" I went, "No." He said, "You don't go to the movies?" I went, "Well, not the last couple of years, no." That was my dealing with celebrities. But that got me interested in rural medicine. I looked up, and there was somebody that needed a doctor in Cascade, Idaho, and I called them, and they said, "We've filled that position." He said, "There's a fellow up in Cottonwood named John Hull that has a 20-bed hospital up there that they're looking for somebody." He had a couple of hospitals we were going to look at in South Idaho, but South Idaho didn't really appeal very much to us. It was really windy and really hot, and I figured after being in Dallas and Houston all my life, I was ready for something more than hot weather. And we finally got up to Cottonwood, and they said, well, we need a dog. You know, we've just started a clinic. We just started a clinic, and it was actually in the old part of the initial hospital where the nuns used to stay that worked at the hospital all night. And we had like 7 exam rooms back there. Dr. Stoddard had started the clinic in January of '84, and I came in August of '84. We got married on August 11th, and took about a 3-day honeymoon, and then started packing up the U-Haul and moved to Idaho. Daniel came on the 21st of December in 1988. He collapsed his right lung about 10 minutes after birth, turned blue, quit breathing. Ellen Kemper came in. She actually put a tube down his, and we got him breathing enough to where he pinked up enough where he got a chest x-ray, and we saw the collapsed lung. And so I put in like an 18 gauge IV catheter and with a stopcock, and just pulled out air until, you know, it was reduced. But we sent him to Spokane, and he stayed there a week. And it was a routine protocol to give ampicillin and gentamicin, but every once in a while the gentamicin affects the hearing. All of a sudden he's in the bathtub, and he says, "Dad, can you turn around?" I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I can hear you better when I see your lips move." And then that's kind of, so we took him to the ear, nose, and throat doctor down in Lewiston, and he said, "Yeah, he needs hearing aids." You know, that's kind of a matter of fact, like, let's get him fit right now. You know, every year he kind of wanted different colors, and he's kind of proud of his hearing aids for a while, and then in junior high he wanted to throw them away and not use them because he, you know, it kind of made him a little different, and he got sensitive to it when before he was kind of proud to show everybody that I've got these green ear moles. And when his son was born, and he found out that he'd passed his hearing test. You know, he started crying because he knew Lincoln wasn't going to have to go through what he went through. Not that it's anything bad. It wasn't. All the bad, I mean, all of his friends, Ryan and everybody was very, very, very supportive to him. But that was emotional for all of us when they did that hearing test and he found out that everything was fine. And David was born on the 7th of February, 1992. We were almost ready to do a C-section because we thought the placenta might be abrupting and pulling apart. There was a couple of big blood clots that came out, and we had her actually in the operating room, and she said, "I think I've got to push." And there's one push and it was out, and so David came out crying. He looked just like Daniel did. I think he was a little 2 ounces heavier, but he just bald-headed as a cue ball. And then Megan was born May 29th in 1994. It was on a Sunday, the day of the Indianapolis 500, and she was pretty uneventful. The labor was uneventful. Well, I can say that because, you know, I wasn't feeling it. But Andy was saying, "Well, you know, Amy, you could push this, you know, guy or this baby out of here if you wanted to." So I just don't feel like doing it. You know, so that went on for about another hour before we finally said, "Let's just push and get this over with." And I think for 3 kids, she's pushed 5 times. So it went pretty good. But there was no problems. She was the only one with hair, big shock of black hair. You know, I think the rigors of the practice, you know, kind of started taking its toll, and never knowing when I was going to get home. I was never knowing when I was going to get home. I think took its toll, and we did grow apart, and you know, made a very painful decision. There was no ever differences about how to raise the kids. And we were very lucky that after that was all said and done, you know, the kids, we kind of halved up how much stuff they had in one house or the other, so they never had to like pack a suitcase and come over to my house or pack a suitcase back to mom's house or anything. I know it had to affect them. It had to affect them, but you know, we always were fairly closely together at ball games, and there were a lot of times we went over to Megan's ball games at Pacific or Dave's ball games at Linfield together. I have 3 books that are really old that Dr. Orr gave me before he died. So I want you to have these books, and I think they're really special, but the information is not as accurate as what the books are now. I think I'm going to take those up to the convent and see if they have a special place to put them. And you know, when I came, everybody's going, well, I used to go to Dr. Dick, and he did this, but I mean, we don't know anything about what you want to do. And I would just, day after day, I said, I'm never going to be the guy Dick Orr was, you know. And he was a special guy. He was a very special guy. But, you know, we've had a lot of special people here since then, you know. I mean, we're sitting in the home of really one of the smartest people I've ever known. I mean, Andy Jones could quote you chapter and verse of syndromes that you really kind of doubted the existence of, you know, and he knows exactly how do you work them up and what you look for and this, that, and the other. And he said, we'll probably never see that here, but, you know, that's what you would do. I said, oh, I said, damn. I said, that's pretty good, you know. Him having to leave left a big hole, you know, a big hole. And we haven't recovered from it, you know, we just haven't. And I don't know that there is, another Andy Jones out there, because what he did with his surgeries and being, you know, around all the time. If someone else needed help with a delivery, I mean, one of us would be in there doing, you know, helping them out. We helped each other on C-sections before, you know, the other guys, and we were kind of the Lone Rangers from '89 till about '93. And I guess because he made himself a surgeon by when he was in the Air Force in residency. He made himself available to do cases when other people just don't take the time to do it. But we were a good kind of Batman and Robin team that took care of a lot of people here. Well, I don't think I could have been in any better of a place. I don't think I could have been any better of a supporting community, especially when the sisters was all working at the hospital, Sister Agnes and Cindy Schultz and some others. I think that's when the thing that St. Mary's Hospital really took off, and then when Andy got here, we started doing more. It was a different sense of purpose than just going to a job. It was being here for the community, you know, and I think all of us that were working there had a calling, and it was to make this community better and to serve the community. But we were, I think, all lucky to be in this place at this point of time in history that we made St. Mary's. St. Mary's made us better, and we made St. Mary's better, you know.